paranoia reveals a ton, right? Like if you can know what Putin is afraid of, you'll know his next few moves, right? If you know what Xi is afraid of, you'll know his next few moves.
Yeah.
If you really know the real fear, not the fear that we think it is. Most of the time, it's the hardest thing to know is the real fear of the enemy. But how are they, as a country that is overly prepared in many areas, China, right? How are they fighting, and what is the message from the top there about climate change? Are they treating it the same way we are? Yeah. Are they putting it as a top 5 crisis that's, we better be prepared for it and spend billions of dollars, if not commit a few $1 trillion of our resources the next decade or two to make sure we can fight off climate change? What is their messaging with climate change?
That's a good question, because it's a bit schizophrenic. Because on one hand, they're 50% of the world's coal production. They're building about 1 new coal plant a week in China. They're going through their industrial revolution. At the same time, rhetorically, they will go to UN climate agreements, which they have every annual meetings every year. Yeah, it's part of the Paris Agreement. And they pay it lip service. Why? Because if you're making all the solar panels, if you're producing the rare earth mining and you don't have the same environmental standards, you can produce it cheap and get it out there. And the more the rest of the world signs on to the climate agenda, the more we're going to be reliant on China.
You think that's what it is?
I truly believe it's in their long-term strategic national interest.
So you don't think any
the rest of the world's becoming dependent? No, I do not think
you don't think they have any fear of climate change?
I can't imagine that they do at all.
Do you think they don't have any fear of climate change the way the average person doesn't have any fear and consequence of eating too much cheesecake and too much food that's just, I'm going to live forever. There's no way I'm going to have cancer. There's no way I'm going to, an average person who has a heart attack or a stroke or something happens, when they ate that food or didn't exercise, they weren't thinking that it's ever going to happen to them. It's always the other guy that's going to have cancer, the other guy that's going to have a heart attack, right? So do you think it's from that arrogant state that, we're going to be powerful forever? Or is it, we really think something's going on, let's do something about it?
No, I think if anything, they would welcome a climate nightmare or climate emergency, because it would create a chaos. If you listen to what the climate models claim and what you were saying, it would create a chaos that only government could solve in their mind. So they win either way. They benefit from the climate agenda economically and long-term strategic interest, but they also benefit even if the climate we're going to turn into the apocalypse that Al Gore or the United Nations or celebrities predict, because chaos empowers the leadership and the long-term goals of China. Then they can control every aspect using the pretext of a climate crisis. Same way they love COVID. People hoped COVID would be bad. I mean, there are whole movements led by, beginning with Paul Ehrlich, in particular, about the overpopulation. People wishing that viruses would kill people off, that the habitable population of the earth is only 1 billion. So to answer your question, they win either way. China's, in it for the long haul. And, and the whole thing with China, too, if you go back to NAFTA, it turns out Ross Perot was right. George H.W. Bush was wrong. Al Gore was wrong. Ross Perot was right about all the so-called free trade agreements, because that shifted China from this, country we should be helping and developing world to now, the global superpower that probably there's no turning back from at this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, with China, Tyler, if you want to pull this up, it's almost like you're saying, don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, you see the images that are coming out of these major cities in China.
With the lockdowns you're talking about?
No, not with the lockdowns, with the smog and the pollution.
Yes, yeah.
So anyone with eyes can see this is what's going on in major cities in China. So how does that doesn't translate to what you're saying, that they don't care about this? They don't care about their people? They have 1.5 billion people?
There's two different things.
Explain that.
There's air pollution and then there's carbon dioxide.
Okay.
And I think probably from the beginning, we should have laid out like a science definition of all this. But essentially, they're going through their industrialization. What you're looking at these pictures right now is Pittsburgh in 1885. It's Detroit. It's New York City. This has happened during rapid industrialization. When they sign on to the UN Paris Agreement, they pledged essentially, even though they're pledged to reach peak emissions. I think it was 2030, and that's when all the estimates said that they were going to hit their peak emissions, because they're going to then level off, and then they're going to be able to start improving their environment. But they probably have another decade or more of that kind of filth in cities. That's traditional pollution from sources. Carbon dioxide is, we inhale oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide as humans. Carbon dioxide is a trace essential gas in the atmosphere that they're claiming too much of will create a greenhouse effect and cause this whole climate emergency, et cetera. That's a little different, though, because that's
You're saying there's a distinct difference between pollution, smog, grossness, and actual CO2.
And actual CO2, which is what they're talking about.
Because when you see these images, whether it's in China or whether it's in Pittsburgh, of funnels of smoke and smog just leaving pipelines into the air, anyone with a heart or a mind will be like, that's probably not good for the environment.
Absolutely, and that's what. But that's what they can't avoid that right now because they're going through rapid, insane industrialization of economic growth. But just as a point,
are you saying that does nothing to the environment? That does nothing to pollution?
This is why I wanted to start. In my opening on my PowerPoint, I show the World Health Organization actually praises. There's the United States for one of the cleanest air in the world. I think we're top 7 or 8 of the cleanest air.
That's great to hear. We're top 10 in something.
Right. We've gone through that. I'm talking about 100 years ago in the United States and beyond 100 years. But I'm saying that is not to be. Don't conflate climate with pollution. That's what Al Gore was. Climate pollution. We have a professor, Will Happer, the foremost expert on the greenhouse effect, actually said that this is a abuse of the English language to look at pollution and smokestack and say that's carbon dioxide and that's what's causing. It's not pollution. CO2 is probably the least objectionable thing to come out of industrial production. Yeah, but China is just so rapid right now, and it's horrible environmental standards. That's what's so incredible. And I mentioned the Starbucks mom or the Starbucks liberal. They want to be all careful. They want to buy only stuff from certified forests, all this ethical buying and the whole movement toward that. Mm-hmm. But yet they have no problem renewable energy and all the rare earth mining and everything coming from China and all the coal production or anything that Putin has been doing. People have just been accepting it because we're outsourcing our pollution and carbon dioxide. And when I say outsourcing pollution, is the more we rely on energy from other countries, we're getting it from countries that don't have the same environmental standards as the U.S., Canada, Western Europe. Russia, Iran, China, Venezuela, OPEC do not have the same, technology and focus on clean air and clean water.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.